fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. Jaime En Fuego here, welcoming you once again to my namesake program, Enfuegotainment. That is right, you can just call me Fuego for short, and so very stoked, as per always, for you to be joining me here for another Fresca Fuego review. That's right, this one starring Jesse Eisenberg, Alessandro Nivola, I want to say, and also Imogen Poots. This is The Art of Self-Defense. That's right, a pitch black comedy of sorts. Honestly, it's about as dramedy as it gets, but I mean, the humor is really just, I don't know, it's sharp and biting and piercing, and I don't know, it's a film that takes itself very seriously and yet takes the comedy very seriously, but it's very deadpan and uncomfortable and strange. I mean, pitch black is really just, once again, the best way that I can describe this. And so here on Enfuegotainment, we always cover the bueno, the malo, and the feo. Boom, 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 just like you see below. And definitely gonna say the fact that Riley Kearns, I want to say, the writer-director behind this, he only has one other feature to his name. He was apparently married to Mary Elizabeth Winstead for 7 years, but yeah, he's only done one other feature, which he also wrote and directed, and then he's got some shorts. But this movie's nuts, man. It's honestly, in tone and in writing, I have to give a bold proclamation and say that I've never really seen anything like The Art of Self-Defense before. Just to give some context as far as just the strange story, I mean, there's some similarities to Fight Club, there's some similarities to, yeah, honestly, that's where I can see the most amount of inspiration drawn, but yet it's so massively different in that regard. So Eisenberg's character is very kind of quiet, mousy, wormy. Yes, he's played those type of guys various times, and I guess that will be a malo that I will cover, because it's not like Eisenberg is playing like against cast or anything like that. But so his character, he's an auditor accountant of sorts. Anyway, he works at this office where none of the guys like him. He's picked on, and he's even got like the small little quiet, you know, dog and whatnot, and what German, I can't think of the name, definitely not a German Shepherd, and that turns into a joke at one particular point. But yeah, so he just lives this very, very quiet, boring, timid, sad sort of life, I guess. And yeah, one evening at the beginning of the film, when he's walking to go get some dog food, he is mugged violently, and he gets the crap kicked out of him and doesn't stand up for himself any way, shape, or form. He just very wimpily is just like offering up his wallet, and like, you know, he's like, there's $10 in there and a gift certificate for the new restaurant in the area, and yet they just proceed to just continue pummeling him, this like biker gang, and not like bikers, but like on little crotch rocket rice burner motorcycles. And they've all got helmets on, so he doesn't see any of their faces, so they're all anonymous when he gets mugged. And he ends up in the hospital because he gets the crap kicked out of him so terribly. And so he's, you know, he's never taken vacations, doesn't really have any friends or, you know, any much of that regard. And so his boss calls him and is like, you know, you're on medical leave, and then, you know, you have so much vacation time built up, you know, take as much time to recover as you need, you know. And he's walking around and he's like scared of everything, and it's really sad, and it's not played for laughs. It's really not. I mean, the humor when it comes in with this, it's as I said, it's like it's of the uncomfortable, like almost just not even so much deadpan-y variety, it's just strange and uncomfortable humor. And all of the humor is like, it's delivered in a very serious fashion. I think there were times, especially once our character turns over this new leaf and decides to kind of take some action and join this karate club, that he overhears, you know, just the daytime fleet of people working, because there's also a nighttime of the more experienced that we eventually get to later in the film. But he hears the daytime class, and he goes and observes and decides to get involved, and yet all of the humorous things that I at least found funny, especially said by Nivola's character, Alessandro, who is terrific in this role. He has a menace, but also a warmth and care and compassion to his character, at least initially. And even when he kind of throws in some tough love with Eisenberg's character as time goes on. And that's really because as this film starts to really twist and turn and morph into something that you're not expecting necessarily, that's where that's where Nivola's character really shines. And this dude has been in, I mean, I still remember him from Face Off way back, but more recently, I know he was in, boy, I remember him from Jurassic Park 3, you know, but he was also, I think I maybe remember him most notably from that. Anyway, recently, American Hustle, A Most Violent Year, I think he was in Selma, so he's a face that you will recognize, you know. He's been acting since the mid-90s, and he's been in a ton of different things, so you shall definitely recognize him if you are any casual fan of, you know, movies and have watched a decent amount over the last, like, 10, 15, 20-something years. You will recognize Nivola, and he's terrific in this movie. He is so very good as Sensei, and yet his amusing reference to, the laughs come in just the intelligence of his instruction, some of the analogies that he makes, and yet, as somebody who's never really studied martial arts or anything like that, but a lot of his sayings, a lot of his, you know, analogies, allegories, examples, all of these different things, they really make a lot of sense. You know, you need to learn to kick with your fist and to punch with your foot, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, and his reverence for the Grandmaster, I think that's what I remember them calling him. There's this photo that is just prominently placed in the middle of the dojo, and, you know, you always give reverence to Sensei, but also to Grandmaster. But Eisenberg's worminess of his character, he plays it perfectly, as he always does. Really, the story, I can't really divulge much about the fact that this does turn into a much crazier movie than I was anticipating. But as Nivola's Sensei character takes Eisenberg under his wings and is trying to just toughen him up, so to speak, you know, and he's telling him things like, you know, I'm sorry these men hurt you. What are some of your hobbies? What do you like to do? And you know, what kind of music do you listen to? And he's like, it's all contemporary. And he's like, no, you have to listen to metal. Metal is the most powerful music in the world. And yet he's just trying to help reshape his identity. And when Eisenberg's like, well, I've always wanted to go to France and I've been learning French. And he's like, no, the French are wimps. They are notorious, people who, you know, just lay down and, you know, give up and surrender and so on and so forth. You need to emulate and model yourself after Russia or Germany. And so Eisenberg's character starts learning German. And the stuff he's saying around the office and some of the unexpected things that he does are just hilarious, man. And so, yes, Eisenberg's character has a very amusing arc of sorts, and his dynamic with Nivola is terrific in this. And then also have to mention Imogen Poots in this. She is a British actress she's been in a lot of different things, but I don't think she necessarily came onto my radar specifically until Green Room with the dearly departed Anton Yelchin, and she's great in this as like the second in command, the one who instructs the youths at the dojo, and yet she feels very underappreciated. She's the only woman in the classes, and she's got a chip on her shoulder because of it. And I mean, one of the funniest lines Nivola's character has in the entire movie is where he's like, I just realized with her that, you know, because she's a woman, she'll never be a man. That's the kind of humor we have in this movie. It's very seriously delivered. Everything is serious as fuck in this movie. And it's those scenarios that actually bring a lot of the humor. And I've gushed immensely about the Bueno because the Bueno is in abundance, as I all too often like to say. MALO, maybe there's some aspects of predictability. Maybe you would be like, oh, you know, Eisenberg always plays these kind of wormy characters and stuff. Maybe you saw some of the twists coming. Maybe it does emulate Fight Club a little bit too much as far as the raising of the stakes without spoiling things. But I don't know. It's definitely not a movie for everybody. It's going to be a little too dark and at times violent and things like that. But really, those aren't necessarily detriments to this film. That's just personal taste, and I always like to say, I'm not sure how often I've said it on Enfuegotainment, but in various interviews and just film discussion and stuff like that I've had, Very Bad Things is one of my favorite dark comedies ever. Peter Berg's movie is terrific. If you've never seen it, Jon Favreau, Christian Slater, Cameron Diaz, Daniel Stern, so many people. Anyway, that's a terrific movie, and in some ways, as far as darkly comedic, I guess Fight Club was darkly comedic as well, but Very Bad Things is one that I all too often point to as far as, you know, just not the most likable characters. I guess there's not really a lot in story, like, essence that has any similarities, but as far as maybe tone and the way some of the comedy and some of the situations are handled, I love Very Bad Things, but this is not a bad movie by any stretch of the word. This is very, I don't have a lot to say, you know, beyond that, and you know, it's very unique in its editing, its tone, its twists and stuff, and so yeah, not really much MALO at all for me to point out to. It definitely has that possibility. I think once it finds its audience, being a smaller indie film, it has a chance to become a big-time cult classic, and it's up there with some of the best dark comedies I've ever seen. As far as Feo goes, yeah, I guess I'll go into spoilers. This is one where the ugly really only would be just the hilarious, just violence and the ugliness of the way that, you know, this guy gets picked on, you know, by the people at work, by you know, even his sensei and the other people in the class to a degree, you know. And when the twist kind of happens, spoilers if you don't want to stick around, when the twist happens and you find out exactly what Nivola's sensei is doing, the way he is actually recruiting people to be, and I'm gonna still kind of dance around and not be super spoilery about this, I guess, but the way he recruits people by going and actually being the biker gang and assaulting those, and I mean, that's where, you know, I guess there is the suspension of disbelief, because you just have to wonder, in some ways he really does seem like he thinks he's doing the right thing, and isn't that what every real villain, they think that they're doing the right thing by going and assaulting these quiet people walking around at night alone, that, you know, do you have a gun? Do you have a gun? And when he finds out they don't have a gun, you know, then they proceed to beat the crap out of them, videotape it. But yet there's so many different layers of, I mean, between his weird business that he has going on with the marketing of these underground VHS beatdown tapes of pedestrians, the way there is a huge body burning station in the secret room, the secret equipment room that nobody is supposed to go in. Like, it's in the third act especially, as you just peel the layer after layer after layer of what's going on, the reemergence of the super secret death move that the Grand Master had, of being able to take his index finger and put it through somebody's skull and kill them, and the way that factors into the plot, and the finale especially. The finale of this was just, I was like, damn! Wow, Eisenberg did that. Okay. Man, it took me off guard at times. This movie was so entertaining, but damn, it's ugly dark comedy that will not be for everybody, and yet it's such a satisfying ending. I love the ending to this, and how things come full circle, and the transitions at the dojo, and just kind of the cathartic and very karmic things that end up going down with Nivola's sensei, especially when you really realize the full scale of everything he's orchestrating and what he is doing. It's just like, mic drop, man. This movie was, and then of course it goes to the death metal lettering, like the super gorecore, you know, grind death black metal, indistinguishable lettering at the very end of the film when they say the title for Art of Defense. It's done in the almost like, it's either Metal Injection or Metal Sucks, because I'm a big metal guy, and they do a, you know, indistinguishable, you know, band logo of the week, and if you can figure out what the hell it says, you win like a random batch of CDs or something. I don't know, it's fun. But this movie was so entertaining to me. This is the type of just unique and different filmmaking. And you could tell it was coming from an area where there is a real voice and a message, and there's a lot to say socially about this, about gender norms, about masculinity. I mean, this was a film that had, it was layered, man. It really was. It impressed me significantly. I'm gonna go seek out his previous movie that he wrote and directed, and I'm very stoked about whatever he does in the future. So I'm gonna give this 4 out of 5 Fuego Fireballs. That is right, not 5 out of 5 like Once Upon a Time got, you know, just last week. But yeah, the art of self-defense was extremely entertaining, dark, messed up, funny. Yeah, it has a lot going for it. So I have been Jaime En Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube with Enfuegotainment, obviously. Most recently, I have done reviews of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, maybe my favorite film of the year so far, but maybe a close runner-up in second or third, Wild Rose, which is another film that I reviewed recently, but there's more mainstream stuff like The Lion King that I have also taken a peek at. But if you want to see more coverage from yours truly, you want spooktacular stuff, you want the scarific, you obviously need to go to youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. That's where we have over 28,000 subscribers, one, sometimes two episodes every single day, whether it is a film, television, comic, or novel review, whether it is a trailer reaction, whether it is an unboxing, whether it is a video game let's play, whether it is a celebrity interview or a convention coverage of some sort. I mean, we like to we like to fancy ourselves as the most prolific YouTube channel for horror on the interwebs. We will never be as bold and arrogant to say that we are the best, but goddamn do we try to just be the most comprehensive, cover everything that is out there for all of you, at least that we think is good. Occasionally there are some bad apples that come into the batch, but we're more so here to warn you about those. And lastly, I have to mention that every Monday evening, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard on the Willie Screedia YouTube channel, I am so very humbled to be a part of Show Business, hashtag Show Business with CP and with Lindsay, where we look at the previous weekend's box office numbers, both domestically and internationally. So we break those down, and we also look ahead to the things that are coming in the following weekend, and we share some palaver about the biggest news stories and occasional gossip of the previous week. So that's going to be the end of the proceedings for today. Once again, I have been Fuego, and y'all have been awesome. So until the real of Ka comes around once more, ha ha, hasta luego, cinemigos. But I'm hopeful that we get to share more film palavers sooner rather than later. Peace.